Hey guys, I'm excited to continue looking at different names of God here today. And we're going to make a little bit of a shift. Most of the names that we've talked about have been in reference to God the Father. And starting today for the next couple weeks, we're going to look at names specifically given to Jesus. And the one that we're going to start with is Jesus as the Messiah. And the Messiah, that's a term that we use around church, or maybe we've heard it just used out in culture in various ways. But sometimes we don't know exactly what it means. But the actual meaning of the word Messiah is the anointed one, or the chosen one, the promised one. So it carries this idea that Jesus didn't just show up one day and say, hey, everybody, I'm here. I'm going to save the day. I know you didn't know you needed me, but I'm here. No, the Jewish people had been looking for the Messiah to come for thousands of years. And it actually goes even back before that, back to the Garden of Eden, right after man had sinned, and God came along and he made him a promise that one day he would send someone who would defeat Satan once and for all. One day he would send someone who would crush the serpent's head. You fast forward a few chapters to Genesis chapter 12, God comes to Abraham and he says, he gives him these promises, and he says one of those things is that through his family, that the whole earth is going to be blessed. One of his family members is going to bless the whole earth in some way. Genesis chapter 49, Jacob is giving the last words to his sons, and he tells his son Judah that he was going to be the kind of the ruling line, that kings were going to come from his descendants, and one day there'd be a king, an ultimate king who would come from his line. Fast forward a few generations later, and you get David. And David's probably one of the greatest kings that Israel ever had, if not the greatest. And God comes to him and he says one of his descendants would reign on his throne forever. We get into reading the prophets and we just see that they expound on these promises and they give specifics of what this promised one, this anointed one, this Messiah would be, and where he would come from and what he would do. And so then when we get to Jesus, that's the question. Is he the promised one? Is he the Messiah? Well, God answers that question right off the bat for us. In Luke chapter 2, he sends angels to shepherds, and he says, in the city of David in Bethlehem, a Savior has been born, who is Christ the Lord. And we look at that word Christ, and sometimes we hear Jesus Christ. We think of it almost as Jesus' last name, but that's not it at all. It's the Greek word that means the anointed one or the chosen one. So when we read Jesus Christ, we are reading Jesus, the Messiah, the promised one. And so God says to these shepherds, he's here, the one that you've been waiting for, the one that I've promised, he's finally here. And that was the debate through Jesus' life. Is he really the one? Is he really the Messiah? Or is he an imposter, a liar? Well, in Matthew chapter 16, Jesus asks his disciples that question, who do you say that I am? And Peter pipes up and he answers and he gives this forceful declaration. You are the Christ. You are the Messiah. You are the promised one. You are the one that we've been waiting for. You fast forward after Jesus' ministry and then his death and his burial and his resurrection to draw people back to God. The apostles go around in Acts chapter 5 and they declare the good news that Jesus is the Messiah, the promised one. And so that's the question that we all have to answer. Do we believe he's the promised one? Do we believe he is the Messiah? And we have the opportunity that they didn't have. We get to look back and we get to take those promises and prophecies from the Old Testament and we get to look at the New Testament and compare them. And we get to see that Jesus fulfilled hundreds of prophecies from the Old Testament in his lifetime. And we're promised that he's going to fulfill even more in the future. So the question is, do you believe that Jesus is the Messiah? Do you believe he's the promised one that God sent? That God said he was going to send to draw all people back to himself, to give an opportunity for us to have a relationship with him. And we can look back and we can be confident Jesus is in fact that Messiah, that promised one that God sent to redeem us and to save us. So I hope that's an encouragement to you this week. We're going to check out a couple verses below about the Messiah, about Jesus being the Messiah, and I hope those are encouragement and give you even more confidence in who he is. Talk to you guys next week.